Hello and welcome to the Ramen Profitable Podcast. My name is Atish Mazumdar and I'm here with my co-pilot, the great and powerful Chris Scott. And this is the podcast about testing out your ideas, taking your first steps, and really overcoming those obstacles on the way to entrepreneurship. Enjoy. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Because this is, for those of you who don't know, I come to Chris for all my adult life questions, so he can tell me how to be an adult. So I have pretty good car insurance.
Okay.
And I have pretty good car insurance because some guy that I met at a bar, it owns his own State Farm branch out here.
Oh, nice.
So he was able to, quote unquote, hook me up. But in hooking me up, it's like he got me expensive insurance, but therefore he was able to put a pretty hefty discount on it. So I'm at one of the higher tiers of insurance that you can have. I have coverage on fucking everything.
Right.
But so my insurance is expensive, but the relative discounting that's applied, therefore it's a good deal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Okay. Now, a couple months back, I went to go visit Sean Wilcox, our mutual friend.
I just saw Sean Wilcox the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did he tell you about how I almost tore my own bumper off my car?
He didn't get a chance to tell me that story. He told me the story about how he backed into a tree or a bush and it went through his rear window.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, he's got some cosmic troubles of his own, so he probably doesn't need to inform people on mine. But yeah, so I we went and got food or something like that, and I was parked at one of those parking spaces that have a cinder block thing in front. You know what I mean? Or not like a cinder block, but that little block thing in front. Now, I don't know why the fuck they have those when there's only one parking space that doesn't face anything. It's not like there were two cars parked in whatever. It faced the dirt. There was nothing out there. So I don't know why the fuck they would have those in the first place when there's nothing, it doesn't matter how far you put your nose of your car into, but whatever. So I guess I had overshot it a little bit, and now the bottom of my bumper was kind of popped up and rested on top of this fucking thing. The little cinder block thing. As I went to pull out, only on one side, the other side is still pretty significantly attached. They're these little bolt connectors that keep your bumper affixed to your car. Just snapped a bunch of those out. So now
it's all plastic. That's why.
Yeah,
that's why it snapped off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all plastic. So it just popped right off. So I have this little corner of my bumper that then because that was in Tucson, I had to get back up to Phoenix. I just shoved it back in and then didn't listen to music the whole way because I was so concerned that it would be rubbing against my tire and then eventually my tire was just going to blow out or something. So that was months ago. Nothing ever happened. It's still, my bumper is still it's pushed in, so it's not coming into conflict with anything, but it definitely, I need to get this fixed, because if I, go over a speed bump or something like that, it's will maybe sometimes pop out or something like that. I just have to push it back in again, which reminded me that I have to do that.
Right.
So I have comprehensive insurance. My deductible is $250.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's good coverage, right? But what I'm worried about is my rates just came down because 3 years ago I had a ticket. 3 years ago I got a ticket coming out of Mexico.
Crossing the border, I remember.
Yeah. So that finally got kind of written off my record, essentially, in September of 2020. So that just happened. My rates now for my new renewal, which just came up, are lower than what they were last time. So I'm going to renew my insurance, keep it on the same. Because what I was reading is you may not want to file a claim if the cost is close to your deductible because your insurance rates are gonna climb. So then you're gonna be paying it off basically over a longer period of time, and your rates are gonna be higher as opposed to if you just eat the upfront cost of whatever the bumper repair is. Now, I don't know what the cost of the bumper repair is. Could be a little, could be a lot. Don't know. What would you do in my situation? Would you file an insurance? I mean, obviously, the first step is to go get the damage assessed and see how much it would cost to replace, right? That's the first step.
Yeah.
But what would you do in my shoes? Because otherwise, it's like, I have this insurance for nothing if I don't, it's
Use
like, why do I have this high tier insurance if not for this very reason?
Right. Why would you, in theory, have this? You would pay extra for this insurance when you can just go to the guy at the kiosk at the mall and get $20 a month car insurance.
Yeah,
I would,
exactly.
I don't know. I guess I would assess the entire car situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like you've had this car for a little bit of time, right? Like 2 years?
About 2 years, yeah.
About 2 years. And it's not, a brand new car, but it's like, you said 2013, I believe?
Yes, it's a 2013.
2013. So it's, a solid 8 years old. I feel like anything under 10 years is worth having someone else fix it. I feel like if
Anything
it's over 10 years.
Wait, run that by me again?
So like my car is a 2006 and some things have been going awry with it lately. Like I had to get a new starter.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do a battery cable change for the terminal port, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's not, the car is like almost 20 years old now. Why am I spending money to have a mechanic fix it when I could do it myself?
Yeah.
So I think your car is in the range of having someone else fix it because it's not a jalopy yet.
It's new enough and it has like it's running really well still and all that kind of stuff that maybe because also to that point, short of like zip tying, because basically there are these little like I don't know what you call them. There's these little connector pieces that then clip into the thing that
and that's
holds
what broke off.
Yeah, and so it just like tore those essentially because it's plastic. So it's like I could just it'd be super cheap and super ghetto. I could just zip tie those pieces back together.
So if it's something like that, I would Google Honda bumpers and see what they have. I assume your car is a stock color.
Oh yeah.
So the color that's going to be available is probably going to be available online. $10 says that little bumper piece is probably less than $100.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Those if it's not like the bumper part that's bolted in, it's like the little cover piece that makes it look pretty.
Yeah.
There's no lights coming out of it. It's kind of just like the bumper part.
Mm-hmm.
It all it is are those clips, those plastic clips.
It's just the clips, yeah.
And so breaking off the clips and clipping on your new ones, that's what I would do. Because filing a claim is not going to be, one, it's just not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. I don't want to. I just got my rates lowered. And mind you, again, my insurance is still high just because it's like, it's the top of the top, right? But it's like, I don't want it to go high again. I just got it down a little bit from just being a good driver and not, I mean, for the most part, but being a safe driver and all that kind of stuff. And then, just like not filing any claims, not doing anything. And that has then allowed them to just like, oh, the amount of time has passed since his ticket. He's obviously a safe driver. Down come the rates. It's like, I don't want to now do another thing that's going to take another 3 years to clean off. You know what I mean? And it's,
right.
I get, because I don't know if they would consider it like an accident. And if it's then it's like an at fault accident. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know. I do think there's a little bit too much concern with filing claims with your insurance. Also, I think insurance is the worst thing ever. I understand the purpose behind it, but I think it's just a huge scam all the way around.
Yeah, agreed.
But you hear people also not want to replace their windshields, even though they have free windshield replacement every year with their plans. It happens a lot here in Arizona, having windshield replacement included in your insurance plan. So a lot of people don't even want to claim that because they think their rates are going to go up.
Yeah, well then, so now there's this whole industry in Arizona specifically. Specifically, there are glass repair shops here that tell you not to file. And if you just bring your car to them, they're going to refund you this much amount of money because I guess if they don't go through an insurance provider, they also somehow make some money off that.
I don't understand windshields at all.
Yeah. Do you see how this is all like, this is black market stuff? Like, it's like, this is definitely a scam. I'm just too dumb to figure it out, but this is obviously a scam.
Yeah. And then on top of that, even just buying a car from a car dealer, like how are cars different prices everywhere you go? And why are there secret deals then in the back office with the branch manager?
Yeah.
And loan officers and cars, man. Where are those hydro tubes?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just want to be in the future, like in Futurama, where you just like get into that thing and just whoop, just shoots you up and takes you around town through there. Like, I want to be in one of those. Forget a car.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, to all you listeners who are like, why the fuck are we talking about Atish's car insurance? This is basically we're re-engaging on the Entrepreneur's Toolkit Day 2 or Volume 2 or whatever it is. Last week, specifically, we were talking about what were we talking about?
Storytelling.
We were talking about storytelling for sales and for pitching and all that kind of stuff. So this week, what better way to intro us into what we're the next kind of item on the tool belt or item in the toolkit is what we're talking about. But Chris helping me through my insurance qualms is just one of the many things that he does for me. Also, like helping me get my keys out of my car. You know what? Come to think of it, a lot of my problems are car related. Yeah,
you shouldn't have a car.
Yeah,
you really shouldn't. Yeah,
obviously. Yeah. So the point being is that Chris has been running his own business for how long now?
Ooh.
When was the last time you were an employee?
Geez. 2013, probably.
Holy hell. He's been his own boss for as long as my car has been around.
Yeah. And I need a new bumper.
Yeah, exactly. So, by the virtue of these years, essentially, of being his own boss, of being an entrepreneur, of owning his own business, he's kind of come up with a lot of, not the most what did we call these, like not the most glamorous sort of, like these aren't the things that you'll see people posting about on Instagram, or here's like the get rich quick schemes and all that kind of stuff, but it's all the reliable, tried and true kind of stuff, like the actual, the nitty gritty, the granular, the stuff that really moves the needle,
the boring stuff.
So we were going to take this episode to really take advantage of Chris's experience and let us know, like, what are the good habits, the good practices, what are the boring stuff that really keeps us, in control of our lives? Because, for instance, right now we're in a pandemic where basically everyone's jobs are like, are we going to have them tomorrow? Are we getting paid? How are we getting paid next? Whatever. And it's really dialing in the boring stuff that, probably keeps you afloat.
Yeah, definitely. So much boring stuff.
So what kind of boring stuff are we talking about? What's the stuff you've got on your mind?
Very good question. I don't know how to start about this. So I was thinking about this, and it's really hard to like narrow down what tools you need to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't know what a good one to start on is.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question, because this has been a recent thing in my life. Do you keep a budget?
I do not keep a budget.
You do.
I am the worst at money, but this is what I do. I just said do. I have a booking system. It's like it's like a ledger. I have a ledger.
Okay.
And it's not really a budget, but it tracks invoices that have gone out and what have been paid. So I know that I don't have any money floating around out in the world to pay me. Mm-hmm. And another thing I do is I bundle all of my yearly expenses to this month. So my websites, my email service, my domains, my subscriptions, they all get paid in this month. So I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So I guess if I were to sit down and be like, these are my expenses, I could totally figure out a budget, but I don't do a budget. I should do a budget.
Well, so this is an interesting principle, and I'm going to talk because this has been my recent fascination, by the way. So, man, if you need budget help, boy, do I got you. All right, so a budget has really been my recent obsession.
Why is that?
The reason for this, do you say how sad?
No, why is that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is also a little sad, to be honest with you. So the reason for this is basically because I set an arbitrary money goal for myself this year, so through 2020, and I said by December I want to have X amount of dollars in my bank account. And then I finally do have X amount of dollars in my bank account, like I did actually just before December. And originally, most of this was informed because of the wedding and the stuff that I had to pay for that. So I was like, okay, I need to have this much money by then. And then we ended up pushing the wedding fucking again. So it turns out I didn't need to have that money by this gate. But hey, it was great that I have it, right? So I know, so I just have like X amount of dollars in my bank account. But now it's sort of like, well, now what? Right? Because I still have to pay for the wedding, but now that's all the way back in September. And I know that I don't just like, I am bad about things that as soon as I start like spending a lot of money, then it's like, oh yeah, I can just do that. Right. So I'm bad about that. So I'm like, no. I want to hold position. I want to stay where I'm at. But it's sort of getting like the idea of like, okay, what do I want my money to do for me and stuff like that. So So that's kind of why I started investigating a budget, and that brought me to this book.
Budget book. Oh, I should read that book because I need a budget.
Yeah, this book called "You Need a Budget" by Jesse either Meacham or Meckham. I'm not sure because I would expect Meacham to have two E's. So I don't know. He's a Mormon.
But is this like a personal budget or is this like a budget for your business?
That's sort of the thing. It's the same principles can be used for both, right? Okay. Because ultimately, if you have bad budgeting ability in your personal life, there's no way you're going to be able to lock it down for your business. Or maybe I'm wrong. Like, I wouldn't exactly know about that. But it's the principles that they have in this book essentially are used for personal budgets, for like married life budgets, and for and also for businesses, because it's really actually super simple. So you don't have to consider too much about, influx, outflux, like payroll tax, all that kind of stuff. Like there is like, you can build in those elements for yourself, but it's really the rules of it are what keep it sort of simple for you. So,
are there any like tools recommended in this book, or is it just make your own spreadsheet?
Well, so this book is actually developed by a guy who did develop a tool. But what I will say is that he says in the book that he's like, look, I obviously have my own tool. I developed it specifically for this purpose, but you can get the same results. Like when me and my wife started, we were just doing it on Excel. So you can do it on Excel. You totally don't need to get their tool. That said, so the book is called You Need a Budget. So YNAB. So the tool is called YNAB, like YNAB. The software is it has a 34-day free trial, so you can see if you'd like it.
34-day.
Yeah, I know. I was like, 30-day makes sense, or 7 days makes sense. 34 days makes absolutely no fucking sense to me. I don't know why you would do it. Like, what that extra, 4 days. I think it's because they want you to experience what 1 month of budgeting has done. And then, so they give you the 4 extra days so that way you see like, oh, look how locked in everything is from my past month. So I got YNAB. I got the budgeting, software. And the rule number 1 of this is give every dollar a job. And this is one of the things, this is exactly kind of what I have a problem with, right? Because it's like, I know I have X amount lump sum in my checking account, but, okay, then rent happens. And then, some other bills happen, and then I go out to eat a bunch of times, and then this, and then, and now I have Y amount of dollars in my checking account. But what happened in between those times? Oh, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So this helps with that because it's like, okay, how many nights am I going to let myself eat out? How much money am I going to spend on that? Like I set these terms. I already know what rent is. I already know what all this other stuff is. So I know how much money it's going to cost, like right off the top now from looking at this, instead of being like, oh, this much of my paycheck probably goes to rent, or this much of my paycheck probably goes to something. Now I know positively how much money I actually have remaining in my check after I've paid all my bills. And like you, so this is what made me think about this, is that there's a different guy, this guy Ramit Sethi, an Indian guy who wrote a book called I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. And or I will teach you to be rich, maybe not how to be rich. Superfluous words, who knows.
Okay.
And in it, one of the things he says is automate all your payments. Make them automatic. Make them come out of your bank account so that you can just like, quote unquote, set it and forget it. Because if you do that, then there's no longer like, you can't create like building excuses for yourself or saying like, oh, like choosing which bills you're going to pay now and which you'll pay later and stuff like that out of matters of convenience. If you automate them, then basically there's right at the top of the month, you're already square, all your obligations are good, and then the picture of what's left in your bank account is actually what is liquid spending assets for you.
Right. So that's why I do all my bulk yearly fees up front. So that way throughout the year I know how much I have or don't have in the bank and it's all kind of my money now. It's not, I don't owe this, I don't owe that,
Right.
I have my bills. I have, all the stuff I need to pay for, but it's not business stuff that I need to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the thing that has, now I've only obviously been budgeting kind of like hard for about 2 months, but that's kind of the thing that's been helping me is that like, so what YNAB does is it plots it out for the next months, like your recurring kind of expenses, like what are your true expenses or what are your, real immediate obligations, rent, food, water, internet is, pretty much a required expense now, and stuff like that. So it plots that all out. So it links up to your bank account. And so it just says, okay, well, here's the rest of your money. Now, do you have a saving goal? Like, oh, I want to save this much money for it. Like I have something in there for, the wedding payment. And what it made me realize is I currently, like the way I was thinking about my money was that like, oh, I have X amount of dollars that I know is pocketed away for the last wedding payment that we owe. But what it made me realize by setting up the saving goal is that if I save, I think it's like $600 every month from now until when my wedding actually is, or a month before it actually, because that's when the payment's due, then I've made my payment. Like it doesn't come out of the money that I currently have. It's like I saved up to make my payment. So now all that money that I currently have can be freed up for other stuff. You see what I mean? So it's like, so then you end up intrinsically what it kind of forces you to do is prioritize the things that you want. So it's like, well, I want to make that payment more than I want to go out to eat. So therefore I fund that payment more than I fund going out to eat. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. It takes the pressure off of having to keep it there and not, chipping away at it. You're kind of just building up towards it. It helps you not feel defeated each month because you see where it's all coming from and going and on a monthly basis versus a one big goal, which I think is right. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, basically.
And I do feel like breaking down big goals to smaller ones is the way to achieve goals.
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of micro stepping your way there helps you kind of like keep yourself on track in a sort of sense.
Right. But I think to piggyback off of budget, which is what I was kind of talking about, is the act of actually being your own accountant, payroll person, your own money person, you're the money guy. Go talk to the money guy. Chief financial officer, I think, is what the business nerds call it. And having a system where you can invoice, like I provide a service. I don't sell anything. So it might be different for you when you get rolling. but I provide a service. So to provide a service, I have to have a meeting first to see what a client wants. In that meeting, we define all the goals of the project, the video project, the whatever they want to have done, and it turns into an invoice. I send not an invoice, a proposal. So I write a proposal. I send them a proposal. It gets approved. They pay me a deposit. I do the job. I send them the finished product. They pay me the remainder of the proposal. And that's sent in the form of an invoice. And so coming up with a system to where you can write a proposal that looks like an invoice, so you're not doing double duty. You just change the title. You send them a proposal. They approve it. You send them an invoice, and they can start paying on that. And just having that kind of bankrolling system on your end is the boring part.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true, because essentially if you're not tracking and would you say that can be reduced to like influx versus what is that called? Efflux? I don't know. I know it's
reflux,
like
acid reflux.
Would you say that's like in a very simplistic sort of way, it's like you're tracking your input and you're tracking your output, and specifically where your input's coming from and where your output is going, essentially. Yeah. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? Like that absolutely has to be locked down first. And that was, one of the things that I just, in a personal sort of, because I can't separate my personal finances from business finances currently, because they're coming out of the same pocket. Like that's, I don't have any separate funding source. So if I didn't understand I understand my influx, I make one check from one company. That's it, whatever. Right. So right now my singular like income source is supporting like a lot of things. It's supporting my actual living expenses, other stuff, but then also the foundations that I'm trying to build for personal business purposes. So if I didn't understand, so the influx was really easy for me to understand, but if I didn't understand everywhere that my money was going, I wouldn't be able to kind of like fine tune and refine, like, how do these actually serve me? Right. How does this actually serve Flowroll? Am I spending a lot of money on a lot of dumb bullshit that, I really should be spending on my business, or spending on, the kind of stuff that's going to accelerate my business?
Right.
And that's really what giving each of your dollars a job helps you do, because now you are setting up priorities for yourself, essentially. Like, I'm going to prioritize putting money into Flowroll over, going out to the bar, essentially. Because it's like, well, which one do I, and it's to each their own, right? It doesn't have to be that way. Set your, set yourself up with like, just whatever you want. Like what is it that you want? And, for me, getting off of a paycheck from a company is essentially what I want to do, because I forget who said it, but somebody said there are two great addictions in life: heroin and a monthly paycheck. It's like it's hard for me to get off that company dollar, because it's like I just have a repeating source of income, but eventually that's what I'm going to have to do if I want to support my own dreams, and therefore that is my number one priority over everything else.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to your business, have you sat down and figured out where you want your dollars to be spent on in your business?
Yeah. So basically right now, so I've set myself, because it's on a monthly sort of cadence, so you can like change the items in your budget whenever you want or something. But I set myself up for, like, I scheduled it in my calendar that 6 months from now, I'm going to reprioritize stuff, because right now I'm putting $0 into like marketing, advertising, that kind of stuff, because I don't need to, right? Like there's no purpose for me to do so. So therefore I'm putting most of the money into essentially formulation kind of stuff, I'm going to see, like, I'm establishing a fund so I'm doing a savings goal for my first outsourced batch of materials.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then from there, so that's kind of where my headspace is currently located at, but I'm setting myself up kind of with a calendar date, like, locked in to ensure that I'm resetting my priorities within my budgeted amount for Flowroll, like, every once in a while. So I'm starting with 6 months because the first time probably not much will change within the first 6 months, but then I'm setting it up to be every 2 to 3 months because from there I feel like things will accelerate a little bit.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the other rules. Where is it here? So basically this. So this book just kind of walks through. It's real short. You can hammer through this in an afternoon, or whatever. But one of the other rules that I really kind of liked in this was age your money, because essentially the more times you can, like if you make X amount of dollars in a month, and therefore you only spend Y amount of dollars, so you have like this extra pocket of money rolling over month to month. It's like the longer you can age your money. So if I still have money, like part of my checking account is obviously because I didn't spend all of my money every month. Some of my money is from last year. Some of my money is from, whenever. So the longer you can age your money, the more prepared you'll be for these, like my car bumper.
Right.
Like
those
these
surprise expenses. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. The more aged your money you have, the more prepared you'll be for these, like, because like I forget what that expression is, but it's like, life happens. Like you can't plan for all of this stuff. You don't, so the tool even has like a budgeted line item for car maintenance and stuff like that. So you can start budgeting some money over the long term. Like if you just commit $20 to it every 2 weeks or something like that, over the long term, you're going to have enough money for when that car problem happens. Now, my problem is that obviously I only started using this budgeting tool last month. So I don't have anything specifically set aside for my bumper, but whatever. I'll take a hit and then we'll plan for some car maintenance in the future.
Right. I mean, that's I think what's tough about coming at a budget from an entrepreneur point of view is you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. Yeah. Like you're constantly living on the edge. You have no idea where things are coming from. Mm-hmm. So having a budget kind of planned out, maybe 3 months in advance, having that much saved away, so you're not stressed out all the time about needing to bring in an income, but you still need to bring in an income, obviously. Right.
Yeah. And it probably also helps you make decisions in that kind of sense, because I'm sure there's probably a bunch of corporate gigs that you don't really want to do. Right.
Right.
So, but, it's like if you can see that like, oh man, I had this target savings goal and I'm not quite where I need to be on it, then it helps you like plan your month and be like, all right, well, this month I'm going to take a couple more corporate gigs that I don't really want to do, but I'm going to, I need to escalate that influx of money in order to hit my goal, whereas opposed to, oh, I'm on track right now, whatever. I probably don't have to take as many corporate gigs, which means I can spend more time actually working on my individual, like my private business, all this stuff that moves the needle. So it also kind of helps you with your decision making, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's good. That's the tough thing about all this advice and everything for entrepreneurs and business stuff. It's kind of based off of the 40-hour work week.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you have a steady paycheck. Oh, you're already making a steady paycheck. You just have to do this, and it's not really applicable if you're, making $300 in July and you're making $9,000 in December. It's an interesting thing to balance in your income and your budget. That's why I kind of avoid budgets, because it's not consistent, and it's kind of a downer once you realize how not often you get a source of income.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like you get big chunks, but if you have something telling you, hey, every 2 weeks put in $10 here, it's like, oh, wait a second, I haven't worked in 5 weeks. What's going on? I need to go figure this out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of there's going to be quite a push and pull when I get to that place. You know what I mean? Like that's why essentially it's so addictive to stay in just a regular, a job where you get paid every 2 weeks for basically the same amount for doing this job, whatever. It's very attractive because essentially it takes that worry or that concern off your plate. But what it also does, it's like, let's be completely honest. It's not out of malice. It's not out of, that they don't, value you or something. But a company will pay you the bare minimum to do what you do, because any dollar above what you would be willing to accept is a dollar wasted. right?
Yeah,
So
they're watching where they're spending their dollars.
exactly. They have a budget too, just like everybody else, right? So they are going to pay you the bare minimum to do the task that you need to do. So essentially, that's why this kind of thing, it's like, sure, it's addictive to stay in a job, but like, I'm no fool. I know that this isn't really how you create wealth. Like, this isn't, and also it doesn't meet my, to be honest, it has less to do with money, but it just doesn't meet my dreams and my goals, right? Like, my quote unquote rich life doesn't necessarily have to be, having a mansion out in, and by the way, I'm quoting Ramit Sethi again. This is from I Teach You How to Be Rich, because what he's saying is that like, your rich life doesn't have to be everyone else's conception of a rich life, which is know a Bugatti Veyron and whatever, a mansion in Beverly Hills. But my rich life includes me working for myself, like, or me being the type of person who can establish like that level of freedom in my life. And the only way you get there is through not being beholden to somebody else's time. Right now, I rent out my time for money. Like, I get paid to give up 8 hours of my time and make it, my company's time.
Right.
Which is fine. It's a good place. Like, I get paid a decent amount, and like, right now it's a favorable exchange. Very shortly, it will no longer be a favorable exchange, because no matter how much they pay me, my time needs to eventually be put into something else. And that's kind of what the problem is going to be there.
Yeah. I think that's another skill to kind of develop, is that tough skin of dealing with the outside world, and the outside world telling you what to do with your time, how to, value your time, having another business tell you what your time is worth, and being able to define it for yourself and put a value on your time yourself, and not have to explain it, and not, or constantly having to explain it and justify it to this outside world really can weigh down on you. We all have concerned parents, or maybe we don't have concerned parents, but we have concerned mentor type people who tell you, that's not a real job. What are you doing that for? Oh, I don't understand what you're doing. That's not real. But it is real to you. It's something you can make happen, but it's right. You don't have to spend any of your time justifying it to other people.
Right. And you know what? Actually, that brings us to another. Now, this is less of a tool or a toolkit, but I think that this might inform, like, this might be the idea that informs everything else, like, moving forward, right? The idea of, like, what is your time worth? And you have to set a value for yourself, essentially. And it might be arbitrary at first, and you'll start to realize, like, just like with your budget, if you overspend in one category, then you realize, like, oh, it turns out that was actually more important to me than I thought. So now I'm going to budget more of I'm rearranging my priorities based on what I actually spend money on.
Right.
Similarly, you're going to set your personal rate, whatever. I think we've talked about this, but you set your personal rate at some value. You probably don't really know, but you're pretty soon going to discover, it's going to flex up or it's going to flex down. So for instance, I can set my personal rate at $100 an hour. Now, that's not what I'm getting paid by my company at all. So don't nobody get excited. That's not what's happening. But if I set my time at $100 an hour, currently I'm renting out my time for 8 hours a day for less than $100 an hour, which therefore means that the hours of the rest of my time for my 24 hours, of which 8 are spent at work and not really 8 are spent on sleep. I sure would like them to be, because I haven't been doing well with sleep. but I'm already spending that time somewhere else. So that means that my rate really is higher than $100 an hour for all of the hours that I'm not at work, which means I am not doing anything, a single damn thing that doesn't move the needle for me greater than it would collecting that money. Do you see what I'm saying? And I used to be absolutely terrible at this. I used to take meetings with everyone. I used to, any friend that would, hit me up, I would just be, oh yeah, sure, I'll meet you at the bar. Like, let's do whatever. Like, I used to be horrible about this. But it was only when I made this realization that, look, I already rent out a considerable amount of my time at less than what my rate is, what my personal rate is. So therefore, I only have X amount of hours free, and I'm only going to spend them on things that to me really move the needle. So it's like this podcast. It's formulating stuff for Flow Roll. It's going to the gym to make sure I'm keeping myself healthy, keeping myself, whatever. It's training my dog.
Yeah, for me, it was learning where not to waste my time. So always chasing the ungrateful client or a potential client that doesn't value me at the level that I put myself at. The people that are always trying to undercut you or like, oh, that's too expensive. Can you come in at this budget? Or like, oh, you want me to spend $2,000 on this video? My nephew can do it for free. And it's you're not going to get the same thing.
Yeah, your nephew's video isn't the same. Trust me.
Right. So it's trying to figure out how much of your energy you're willing to put towards that. Because at the end of the day, they're never going to be happy, and it's just not worth. It's not worth chasing those, the tiny clients to get your income coming in, because it's just a time suck. And then your time is gone, and then you're discouraged because this person's never going to be happy. So it makes you think you're not good at your job, and why is anybody else going to hire me? And it's like a snowball effect when you deal with terrible people like that.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, that's going to be unavoidable, right? Or unavoidable. Like you're going to. It's
right.
Yeah. Interesting. So how do you, in a kind of grand scheme, like, given how important your time is and things like that, it's like, this is, I guess, a different kind of budget. Like, how do you, because you obviously set goals for yourself. We've done episodes on that, and you obviously kind of know a general direction, but it's like, how do you kind of make these micro level decisions in order to ensure that the things that you're doing are serving you versus like, serving some other purpose?
It's like for me, I really separate business and creative work. So being video production work, everyone thinks it's like commercials and weddings and bat mitzvahs and quinceañeras.
yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Like, I don't do any of those. I don't do any weddings or bat mitzvahs or anything like that. But I do, some like personal video. But it's easy to. What I do is I do have a day rate. I have a day rate and I have an hourly rate depending on what service I'm providing. So for a video production day, it's a day rate for 10 hours. It's it used to be when I first started off, $300 a day was my day rate for 10 hours. So I'm working 30 hours at 10 hours at $30 an hour, which is pretty good. And, at 10 hours that you can charge overtime and double overtime depending on how production goes. Like now I've added a couple $100 to that because I feel like my time is valued more.
More valuable, yeah.
I have more experience and we'll get things done quicker and faster and more efficiently and better. So it's easy to go, I need to work 8 days this month to meet my minimum, or 4 days this month, or like, oh, I worked 16 days this month. I don't have to work for the next 3 months. So that's kind of like how I break down my income coming in. And it's easy to separate the corporate work. I'm going to call it corporate work because corporate sounds boring and evil. From the creative work that I want to do. Like that's the business I want to develop is my creative business, creating, films to potentially become a source of income, which is really hard to do, but it's still kind of the goal.
Yeah.
And so having that goal
Grizzly Hill
makes it, I haven't really sat down and like, you can sit down and be like, I need X amount of sales of a movie to break even on the movie.
Right.
And then everything after that is, the frosting, the sprinkles on top, the your potential income. So it's tough.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's exactly the reason why the paycheck is so addictive, right?
Right.
Because it's like it liberates me from that stress. But it's like the thing is that everything is a trade-off, right? Everything is a trade-off in life. And so by liberating yourself from that stress, what you also are potentially liberating yourself from is future freedom or future, so it's you have to be able to play long-term games with long-term people, which that phrase in and of itself might be a tool or a tool belt for entrepreneurs and stuff like that, because the short-term gain is attractive and it'll always be there. But I have made that like I'm going to be purely honest and vulnerable with any listener that might listen to this episode. I have made that trade-off too many times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Too many times. I think a big part of that, not to turn this into a therapy session or something like that, but a big part of that was just out of panic because I got too used to listening to the kind of negative voices that Chris was referring to earlier. That was, in the form of my parents, who are two lovely people. This isn't, anything shitting on them essentially, but they only know the one path. They only know the one way. And so therefore they can't see the vision for something that like they have never experienced. And it would be foolish of me to assume that. But, I've always been a good boy who did his homework and did all, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't used to not having a plan and not having, all this kind of stuff laid out for me. So you end up paying for it in one way or another. And I can, maybe I'll do an episode like more on touchy-feely stuff regarding this. Maybe that'll be a good motivational episode for would-be entrepreneurs, because it's like I can tell you from personal experience that sometimes you will definitely have a good life all the same if you get on board with someone else's plan for you or something, because you have to make it that way regardless. Like you will still have a good enough life where I'm sure you will meet plenty of nice people and you'll laugh a lot and all that kind of stuff. Like that is still good enough. But the fact of the matter is that, and now we're really getting into the touchy feely, but the fact of the matter is that, my personal belief system tells me that this is our one shot at the ride. Like this is the one thing we get. Like, you don't get another go around at this. So therefore, to me, the risk of, trying to have my own business, the risk of trying to do my own thing, which is daunting, which is scary, is far outweighed by the risk of reaching the end of my life, looking back and thinking, man, I did good work for other people and all that kind of stuff, but I never really got to experience the life that I wanted. And that in your budget, then, if you're thinking about your budget, like that's your motivation right there. That's the thing that will serve all, and it'll be clear in your priorities. It'll be clear in everything. So similarly, it's like, man, I'm sure Chris feels some months that it's like, man, a regular, especially right now in the pandemic, right? A regular paycheck would be fucking great.
Yeah.
But
it really would be. It would be really nice.
Yeah, I bet. Like, I bet. But at the same time, it's like Chris could be a creative worker for, Amex or something like that. I bet you could shoot the hell out of a credit card commercial.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But would that really be serving the real thing that you want, the ability to tell stories, the ability to, create these interesting characters and drive this, the dynamics that you see on screen and stuff? I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure. I know a lot of people get starts in commercials and, they build their own path that way. That requires a move to California or New York. And that's just something I don't want to do. So that's another part of the negative outside influences that's only understood one way by, in a general sense, by the general population. So like, oh, I want to make movies. Oh, why aren't you in Hollywood making movies? It's like, well, you don't understand the whole system behind it. Oh, I only go see it, movies in the theaters. Why isn't your movie playing in the theater? And it's like, well, it's a whole political process to get a film made in one, and then two, to have it actually played in theaters. At that scale, it's a whole process. It's not just something anybody can do. A lot of people try, and just trying to get through that sea of everyone else trying and standing out and being your own person and developing your own ideas and products and stories that you want to tell versus hopping on somebody else's back and riding that train, which is that 40-hour week.
Yeah. Should we? Okay. So here's a question for you. The 4-hour work week, that book by Tim Ferriss, was written, kind of a long time ago. Not in the grand scheme of things, right? But like now it's been written a long time ago. I remember reading it back in college, and I remember I had some positives and negatives about it. Like I had some things that I thought were like, okay, these are good principles to extract, and then I had some stuff that it's like, okay, this is kind of bullshit, or this is irrelevant, or even just in some sense kind of ethically maybe not what I liked. And I think you know what I'm tapping on specifically with the ethics part, perhaps.
Possibly.
Yeah. Do you think it'd be helpful to revisit that book? And
well, this is my thought on. I feel like I think Tim Ferriss has done a lot of cool things and does a lot of interesting things and like experimenting on himself and all that interesting things that he does. And he writes really thick books, and it's just a bunch of really interesting. Like, you know, there's some good things to pick at there. I feel like Tim Ferriss's success happened at a time where he was like at the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. Like he was doing some sort of language translation or language school. Something that was like his first thing.
Yep.
And then, you know, everything else after that, it just kind of, he was like positioned in a place where all of his ideas could successfully happen one after another. And I feel like all of the ideas and techniques that he used are kind of not applicable anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because that was written what?
Early 2000s.
Years ago?
Yeah, hundreds of years ago.
Let's look it up.
This is why eventually we're going to have a producer. So it's just you and me, and then we have somebody else who'll be like, "Oh yeah, 4 Hour Workweek was published in blah blah blah."
2007. So that's what, 14 years ago? No.
It's older than my car.
It's older than your car. And so 14, a lot has happened in 14 years. And I feel like a lot of the things that he executed in that book probably happened in early 2000.
Yes.
So it's you know, 20 years ago, I don't think these techniques really apply to this world anymore.
Yeah.
I do think that what's happened to the current state of our world is that we're all connected all the time, and everyone's approach to business, I think, and advertising and marketing is kind of doing this just plop the whole net across the whole ocean and we'll catch a couple of them. But I do feel like because we're all connected all the time, it's easier to focus our energies towards a certain audience. It's easier to find our audience that would respect the business we're trying to provide. So like you on Reddit, not going on MMA threads, but going on jiu-jitsu threads.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So I and that's a thing you do on one site, and it's just a keyword search. Mm-hmm. Versus before, you would probably just send an advertisement to a wrestler magazine, American Wrestler magazine, and hope and pray that some jiu-jitsu people read that magazine as well as wrestlers and MMA fighters. If that makes sense.
Exactly. No, I mean that's definitely a solid point.
We should develop our own 4-hour work week. We'll call it the 3.5 hour work week.
Oh, there you go. Suck on that, Tim Ferriss.
The 3 hour and 45 minute work week, and then attach a 15-minute meditation CD.
Yeah,
to go with it. Yeah.
Perfect. And you can get all this for $9.99 a month.
For $9.99. People would eat that up. We should totally do that. But I kind
of like the idea of modernizing 4-hour work week because those are essentially, because I read it in college. So for perspective, actually, no, I read it out of college. So that was already, 2014, 2015, give or take. And even then, so that being 5-6 years from now, even then I didn't really feel like it was 100% applicable.
I think I read it when I first started doing this, like 2013. I think that's when I read it.
Yeah.
And I think, when I was reading, I was thinking, a lot of the stuff seems dated already. Like it doesn't seem like it's progressive or moving forward at all. And even some of the ideas behind it, I could see kind of working, but at the same time, it was kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, it was kind of riding the first wave of the Internet of Things. You know what I mean?
Right.
In fact, and now that's just not enough. Like that kind of level of stuff. It's like. Everybody does that. Everybody. Like it's not something that, really will differentiate yourself or your business.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I again have set my. Did I tell you where I ended up landing on my goal for last year in terms of reading?
I think you mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, I fell short.
What was it?
I fell short
because of freaking Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, because of goddamn Count of. Now, mind you, that ended up being my favorite book of the year, so it was time well spent.
Okay.
But it also caused me to miss my goals. So I hit 46 out of 52, so 6 books short. So, this year I'm already 2 books. I'm ahead. I'm already 2 books in January. Although, to be fair, one of those books was You Need a Budget, and this thing is short as all hell. So, maybe I'm stacking the deck in my favor. But hey, that should be fair given how I sunk time into Count of Monte Cristo. But I'd be down to do a revisit on 4 Hour Work Week. That way we can construct our own kind of parables out of that, because I think you're right. I think there's some modifications to modernize it that we could do. And hey, I need to, read more books this year anyway. So why not?
I'll get it off the bookshelf and dust it off, or I'll see if it's on Blinkist. So you just have to listen to it for 10 minutes.
There you go. See, that's Chris budgeting his time. He knows where he's got so much time in the day. He has to do some stuff for Cox Media or for whoever. He has to do some creative stuff. He has to work on the scripted podcast. And now he's got this much time for 4 Hour Work Week. So there you go. That's a time budget for you.
Yep. It's 26 minutes long. I'm totally going to listen to it on the way home.
Perfect.
Did I tell you I revisited some of the Bond movies we discussed?
Oh, did you?
And I want to make some claims that I'm pretty sure I made on the other podcast.
Okay, lay it on me.
I watched Casino Royale and immediately watched Quantum of Solace.
Okay.
Quantum of Solace is definitely the Taken 3 of all the Bond movies.
Yeah.
And it has the worst theme song, I believe, out of all the Bond movies.
That's the one with Alicia Keys and Jack White.
Right.
Yeah. It's like I'm torn because on the one hand, it's and the fact that it was sandwiched between the Casino Royale one, which was Chris Cornell, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace.
Where that one really tells the story. Like, the song is super appropriate for the movie because it's like, my name, Bond's name, like whatever, but they're rebooting, they're resetting expectations and all that kind of stuff. And then in between that and Adele Skyfall, which, like, damn, she blew it out of the water for that one. That's actively a great song. So it's like, I feel like being in between both of those, they had to have done a better song, and it kind of wasn't. Yeah. I get it.
I remember trying to give it a chance because a friend of mine was like, "Oh yeah, that song's a banger. That's a great song." And I'm like, "Oh my god,
really?
Nope." That's maybe I don't remember it the way you remember it, but listening to it again, I was like, "Oh, it is kind of good right now. Like, this part seems pretty good." And then the chorus comes, and it's just cringe the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched Casino Royale, and I also watched GoldenEye. Now I assume I remember Casino Royale is your favorite one.
Yes.
GoldenEye is my favorite one.
Interesting. Okay.
Casino Royale is a really good movie, but it's not fun enough for me.
What?
GoldenEye is just as good, but I was grinning the entire time I was watching GoldenEye. Like, I was like in it. I've had nostalgia feelings with it.
Yep.
It was fun. It had they hit all the marks for me. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I stand by my comments in the previous podcast on James Bond.
Yeah, no, I disagree with you. I mean, I agree with your statements about GoldenEye. Great movie. I love that. Here's where I just in general disagree with you, and we're just going to have to live with this. I think it's just that it comes down to the fact that I think Daniel Craig is a better James Bond than Pierce Brosnan. I just ultimately, and because that informs kind of the different styles and approaches of the movies, right? Like, Daniel Craig, and we may even have to, not that I'm insinuating anything about this, but we may have to accept that this might be a generational divide, which I think we said on the Bond podcast, essentially. But it's essentially that you were a certain age watching GoldenEye, and I was a certain age watching GoldenEye, and I was a certain age watching Casino Royale, and you were a certain age watching Casino Royale. Those ages just happen to be different. So
yeah, definitely.
So I think it's that, it's the same kind of like feelings about who Bond is and all that kind of stuff that we just kind of have a difference of opinion on. I think Casino Royale is the best Bond movie. I tend to not like origin stories, which that one is. Like, I'm so sick of superhero origin stories. No more. That's my 2021, what I'm saying for everyone, no more origin stories. Damn it, we don't want to watch it, which is why I thought they did so well with did you watch Spider-Man Homecoming? No, which one was the one where with the new guy, the first one with the new guy?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What new guy? What are you talking about?
So there was Tobey Maguire, America's sweetheart, Tobey Maguire.
Right.
He did those first Spider-Men. Then there was the middle guy, who is my least favorite, which
Andrew
you would
Garfield.
think that like the Tobey Maguire ones are dog shit movies. Like, let's just accept
No,
it. That's
the second one's the best. Out of all of them, the second one is the best one. With Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You don't like Willem Dafoe Willem Dafoe. I've got a comparison for you. Willem Dafoe in Spider-Man 1 was my Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp in Goldeneye. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, just like way over the top, just so much fun. I enjoyed every fucking second they were on the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think Willem Dafoe was great in the first Spider-Man movie. I feel like the first Spider-Man movie was just not a really good origin story, which is what you're complaining about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, because it's also like, mind you, I watched that movie came out I remember it had to have come out in 2001 because there was that whole thing about like they edited the Twin Towers.
The 9/11 towers. Yeah.
So in 2001, I was young as fuck. So that's also why I probably thought it was a good movie, is because it's not. It's garbage. The middle guy, Andrew Garfield, I think he absolutely sucks. I think he is terrible for the role. I think a whole lot of what he does, like, I don't know if it's his... I don't watch a lot of Andrew Garfield movies, so I don't know if this is his acting style or if this is just like... I don't know if it's his like acting style or if it was just in this movie, but he does a whole lot of this, like the Michael Cera stuff. You know what I mean? Like, like, and he thinks that that's called acting like a socially awkward person. And it's like,
yeah, he's definitely an awkward person.
Yeah.
Yeah. That second Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie is pretty bad. It's just cringe and awkward the whole time. But Now they have the movies with the other guy, Tom Holland.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, see, I don't know what his name is. So there's with the other guy. And you know what they didn't do? A fucking origin story. And it was great. They go into the movie. You already know who Spider-Man is. Like, you get the idea. He already has his powers. Like, let him roll through. And then they did things. They specifically made changes. They did something that's because Spider-Man has a secret identity to protect his family, whatever. But they gave him a best friend that knows his identity, but like won't give it away or something like that. That is called taking a creative license that actually drives a different kind of story and like pays off and it works. It's like, it's not just like the comics. So of course the comic book nerds are all like, why the fuck, he would never do that. But in terms of the movie, it drove some really good stuff. It was good material. I dug it. So, why was I talking about this? Oh yeah, origins. Man, it's good that this is beyond the hour mark because we can just cut all this nonsense.
Nope, it's going in because that first 10 minutes is getting cut.
So, oh, damn it. So basically, I typically don't like origin stories. I'm sick of origin stories, but Casino Royale as a Bond, I think, is an origin story done right. It like contextualized the series. It reframed the expectations for the modern generation that, Bond is a little gruffer, a little more like, doesn't have a plan, doesn't have, whatever, but he's just going to make it happen. He's doing it live. He's like Bill O'Reilly. He's doing it live. It's like they really kind of set the expectations and set the bar. I think Casino Royale is the one to beat. Do we know who the next Bond is?
No, not yet. I think we're waiting for No Time to Die when I think James Bond is going to die.
Oh my God. That's going to break my heart.
Yeah, but I don't think the new Spider-Man movies are that good. I feel like they try to make young Spider-Man the new Iron Man, and it just feels like a cookie cutter movie to me. But Michael Keaton was really good in it.
Yeah, I like wow. Man, you and I have
why is
some
this
real
suit
differences of
talking?
opinion.
Why is this suit talking?
Yeah, that also that drove me crazy. Yeah.
But anyway, 4-hour work week. Let's break it down. Let's modernize it.
We're gonna modernize the 4-hour work week, so you have that to look forward to. Chris, anything to plug?
Nothing at the moment. Just check out the Instagram at Elephant Scout, and yeah, that's all I got. You?
I have not much to plug. Find me at Atish and Chris on Instagram, and then you can follow along with me. I have just started and curating the Ramen Profitable Reading List, the RPRL, where you can read all the books that are mentioned in the podcast or are something that I think are really critical or drive value. So far, I only have the 2 books on it that I've read through January. So What Great Salespeople Do by Michael Bosworth and Ben Zolden, and You Need a Budget by Jesse Meacham or Mecham, not sure how to pronounce that. But these are the books. I guess we'll put 4-hour work week on there since we're talking, but you can find that eventually on Instagram. Right now, I've been trying to design my own website because I wanted to get off the teat of, what is that? Wix or whatever. And also because I'm, in my free time, I'm taking on programming. So I am designing my own website. I might end up actually, just for speed, I might end up going with Squarespace or whatever. Squarespace?
Yeah, Squarespace is quick and easy.
Yeah, I might end up just doing a Squarespace quick and easy, because while I am learning how to, design a web page, it's like, of course, my early websites are terrible. So I may just do a Squarespace to get us rolling on the Ramen Profitable Reading List, or just a general landing site for Ramen Profitable, including the Ramen Profitable Reading List. That is soon to come, and I will be posting links everywhere, so you will know all about it.